Today's a big deal for me because when I open up my email in the morning, the first thing that I open up is my Blender email with a connection to the Substack story for the day. And often there's many of them, including a video. And that's kind of where I start. But you see, here's why I really like Blender. It's my smoke detector. Because when there's smoke, I find that a lot of their stories within hours, days, or maybe even a couple of weeks, there's a full burning fire on that topic. And today we're going to talk to Jonathan Harvey. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I wasn't joking. That wasn't hyperbole. The first email I open every day is, okay, let's see what Jonathan and Liam are up to and what kind of stories I should be watching. How long have you guys been doing this now?
I appreciate that. Yeah, sending it out at 5:30 a.m. We end up at the top of the box for you, which is good.
Okay, there you go. If you're trying to get your content out there and you want to be competitive, let's start at 5:30 in the morning and get it out there. It works.
So we've been on it for 2.5 years now. So I started it myself. Excuse me. I started it in August 2023 on my own. And then Liam jumped on board about 4 or 5 months later. And the reason I started it is because through COVID, I started speaking out. I was very frustrated with how the government was handling COVID, how they were handling everything, the lockdowns, you name it. It was all kind of bullshit, to be honest with you. And so I was speaking out against it because I owned several restaurants at the time and we were getting absolutely kneecapped.
And you actually made press at the time around those restaurants and your outrage. That's kind of where this began, I think.
100%. Yeah, but the thing is, I maintained objectivity. I maintained a very even temperament. I didn't have any of my videos canceled or removed from any platforms. So, I mean, that to me says a lot, given how very credible people were being taken off platforms at scale.
Yeah.
So I managed to have that conversation from the alternative side of things and maintain enough balance that they couldn't cut me off. So I thought that was good. But it was also interesting. Like I scaled up to 100,000 or so users. But what I found was everybody I met in public, everybody was super, super kind. No one was outraged. No one was ever mean. I was going
to ask you that. Nobody came at you.
Everyone was amazing. But they all said, they appreciated what I was doing and that I was sort of saying the things that they were thinking that they were unable to say in a lot of cases. And that to me meant a lot. I was like, okay, so this is leaving a significant impact in the community and with a lot of the right people. And people were saying, I don't feel alone. Thank you. So it's okay. The impact was there. So once COVID sort of ended and I didn't have to continue talking about that anymore, I was like, what do I do with my time? Now I owned 5 restaurants at the time. Just hanging on for dear life. What was once a great business became a very poor business quickly.
Boy, it really did. It annihilated.
They shut us down for over 500 days.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Well, you're still paying your bills. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's fine. It is what it is. A lot of people suffered. We were just one of those people. So I started thinking, okay, what do I do next? I've been an entrepreneur for the last 15 years. I'm going to continue down this path. Once you really live in the world of entrepreneurship, you don't really change gears.
No.
You just love so much about having the freedom. And anyway, it is what it is. Comes with challenges, more responsibility, but more freedom. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? I've got this audience. It did make an impact, but how do I turn this into something more significant as the entrepreneur? So that's where I came up with the idea for Blender News. And Blender News really was like, okay, we're an independent voice for the people of Canada because there's a huge gap in this market. And I was thinking about it economically, but more so impact. I like to use my hand as a tool when I talk about this. Money used to be at the top as an entrepreneur, but then over time, it kind of flips. And then all these other things become more important. And impact for me is now at the top. It is much more important than just making money. So I thought this would be a great way to positively impact the country. So my big goal was keep your foot on the gas until the next election. Don't change course. Just go, 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 go. Don't worry about making money. Just make sure that you're leaving a positive impact and you're telling people what's really going on. So that was really where it started. And Liam, like I said, jumped on board in December of the same year. We've been a rather dynamic duo, if I do say so myself, since then. It's been great.
The dynamic between you guys is it's really good. And it's credible because you do your homework and you do your homework together. You can see that one of you knows something, the other one's informed by, and back and forth. That really lends to credibility because you're not in an echo chamber. That's the one thing I do notice about Blender. You guys do not allow yourselves to be in an echo chamber. I've seen you change your tune on things that were moments of honesty. And I really do appreciate that about you and Liam.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Ultimately, we're truth seekers, the both of us. And I say this about us all the time. We both ended up in the same room, but we took a completely different door.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of operate. Like he's more history, philosophy, more like build the individual through learning about these things and learning about himself. For me, I'm a little more of just a logic-based, number-based, objective person. I care more about the truth than anything. And we both kind of fell into this political space because it's what seemed to matter most. So when you take those two and put them together, it was interesting. When we first met, my concern was, I was like, there's going to be a lot of crossover here. We're going to both be Kobe trying to shoot the ball. And it wasn't what happened. So it's actually been a really good dynamic. We continued on with it. Then the election came, and then I kind of learned a thing or two there. And I don't mean to pump our tires, we had more views the month of the election than CBC News.
No, that seemed obvious to me.
Like it was bananas what our traction was like. Why do you think that is?
It seemed to me that CBC wasn't touching on any of the topics that you guys were. By the way, I think that if you've ever sort of had a Blender experience only in passing, you might think that you guys are salacious on a topic, but that's not the case. You do get an even presentation of what a topic is. But I think what is shocking to people is that they're not getting this news from their traditional media, which is in a lot of cases how we're building an audience as well. People are just like, okay, well, I didn't even know that we were talking about that topic. And here it is. Sometimes it's not massive. Sometimes it's just one small key that unlocks several doors.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would say here. So what I learned through the election was our goal was to try to change or at least shift the political, the winds just a little bit, even 1%, 3%, 5%, enough to make a difference. And before, the election, everybody was pointing at Poilievre. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be the next prime minister. We're all set. Trump came in, ruffled some feathers. They swapped out Carney. It was a smart move. Carney seemed more centrist, so everybody kind of voted for him. But really what I learned was this. The independent media space really does not carry a lot of weight. And I started wondering why. So one of the big reasons is because federal funding. 85% of all mainstream media, 85% of all mainstream media is funded by, at least in part, by the federal government. My guess is about 50 to 60% of all independents are also funded by the federal government. So you've got the highways and the side streets. 90% of all news consumed by a Canadian comes from a subsidized source. 90%, that's bananas.
Do you know what people forget about it with that number? The biggest spending advertising client on television and traditional media today is also the federal government. So not only do you get funding, but you get them as a client as well. So let me ask you something. If Sleeman was the sponsor of True Patriot Love, do you think that, and they were a big spending sponsor, do you think that we might do more articles or more presentations, podcasts, or TV shows that put drinking in a good light and made pot smoking look like a bad thing? Or we might diminish the effects and side effects of alcohol on our healthcare? Of course we would, because we don't want to offend our sponsor.
And if anything, you want to get deeper into bed with them. They're the ones paying your bills.
Exactly. So that narrative as the federal government as that client, that's another layer. It's not just the funding and the grant writing. It's also they're a client.
Yes, it stops you from pushing back. It's the same thing you see with Big Pharma in the United States, right? Yeah. Yes, they're buying ad space, but they're also stopping you from writing hit pieces on them, ultimately, right? And so we sort of unpacked all this after the election, and I was like, look, we can't make as significant an impact as we'd like because there are not enough of us yet.
Gotcha.
Hopefully with things like True Patriot Love and other organizations that step up that are, look, you're a little conservative, but you're really more centered than anything. That's really what this is.
You and I just had this conversation. Yeah. I don't have a party anymore.
No.
I'm disillusioned completely with party politics at the federal level and even at the provincial level.
Yeah, 100%.
And now it's really time to watch. It's time to watch what people are doing. Doesn't matter what party they're with. We need to see what they're actually doing with their time in their position at council, as a premier, as a member of the legislature, whatever they are in there. We need to watch what these people are doing and get them to work.
Yes. I mean, so when you kind of look at, if you just jump back into the media space, I totally agree with everything you're saying. The challenge we have is there's no accountability, and our watchdogs, I was doing a piece on this earlier, all the watchdogs are just bought and paid for at a total line. right? We don't have a skeptical enough citizenry to push back, which is kind of where I'm getting with this. So the reason we continue to do the independent media is because there needs to be more of us. It's still a service that Canadians need. Okay, there's not enough of us to shift elections just yet, but I think we get there over time. And we know with the funding coming from the federal government, we have to do something to fight back. And as Canadians, in the world we live in today, we don't use physical violence or kinetic warfare. We use words. We use media. We use this is our weapon right now. So there needs to be more people doing this. So I hope this motivates others to do the same. And that's why we continue doing what we're doing. But ultimately, and to sort of go back to your point, one of the primary reasons we do this is because you need citizens to be skeptical. Not that they have to be skeptical of everything, not that they have to be conspiracy theorists about everything, but you have to distrust your government at one time or another. And I don't care, both parties, all parties, everyone. They're not always doing things for you. In a lot of cases, they're doing things for themselves. Look at Trudeau, scandal after scandal after scandal. The only reason he got away with it is because there was another bigger scandal next week.
I thought it was because he was a prince. I thought he was royalty. My bad.
It's more of a princess, but okay.
So the other thing that I wanted to kind of, with traditional media, by the way, they don't do what you and I are doing. Blender does not sit with True Patriot Love. CBC does not sit with CTV. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the camera and referenced something that you said or something that I've watched on Juno with Candace. Even Ezra is a superstar in Canada now because this non-traditional media is so important to people.
Yes.
And we're tired of paying for a state-run media outfit. And that became really apparent in the last election, that conservatives and liberals alike don't like to see media so propped up financially.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to spend $1.5 billion on CBC every year. Yeah, and like I said, we outpaced them during election month. So for me, it's like you're just lighting your money on fire and paying for a propaganda machine. It's nonsense. The system's very, very broken, which is why we jumped into the space. Ultimately, we couldn't move the needle as much as we wanted to, but we still see the value in the service that it provides. So we continue to do it. And I'm glad people like you are jumping in and helping scale the independent space, because I think this is the only way we start taking our country back. And when people hear that, I just want to finish with something. When people hear that, they think it means voting for the other side. That's not what it means. It means dropping all of the ideology. Stop operating through a lens of over-identification and ideology and believing everything you hear, and start living in a world of logic and reason again. Then make your decision from there. I just want you to have all the information and to make a logical decision. I don't care what it is. That's your opinion, not mine. But if you don't have all that information and you're not willing to address it in that manner, Canada can't fix itself.
If you put a political party bag over your head, you'll never see or hear everything that you need to hear.
That's correct.
It's so funny. We were talking about this before the show. I have family members and friends that are so conservative or so liberal that they can't hear that they're saying the same things often.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, it's interesting. They won't. Again, when you live in this emotional space, you give way to emotion over reason. Just what you do. It's just like, it's physiological. I look at the brain and it's like logic and reason, emotion, then there's function, like you breathing and your lungs moving. Like I can't stop that by telling you. It just happens. And it kind of works in this hierarchy. When you are overtaken with emotion, when everything around you is politicized, everything, you become identified with it. When it's part of your identity, you're emotional about it. A good example is Apple. I'm an Apple whore. All my stuff is Apple. But I understand what I'm doing.
You don't understand. That's the man, Jonathan. That's the man. Don't you understand? They've got all your data, man.
Yes.
And they've got you addicted, man.
Someone's going to have it one way or another. But I know that I'm emotionally tied to the brand. Like I know what's happening. I know it's silly. And I know that there are superior products now. I'm not stupid. I get it. But this is happening at scale with politics. And when you put this umbrella, now imagine we're just talking about tech and Apple. Mm-hmm. If you throw a political umbrella over everything, because everything is politicized now, whether it's the education system and what we're teaching kids, to the economy, to you name it, travel, everything, like you saw what happened through COVID.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There is some government department overseeing everything because they're expanding their control and this is what they want. Okay. So that means everything you're looking at has got this political umbrella over it.
Of course.
So everything is now emotional.
And it's politicized because it's often, and we have it right now in Canada, even just not with the majority, there is a political party in charge of that fuel in the tank.
Well, it's how they maintain power. If I can get you to vote with your emotion, then I always win. And the more people I can convince to vote with emotion, the more people I will continue to keep on my side. Because if anybody was using logic or reason during the last election, they would have voted conservative. And I'm being 100% honest. Like, that is objective. Again, I don't support the Conservative Party at all times. During the last election, it was pretty much a necessity. We decided we weren't going to do that. Well, so that tells me at scale, we voted with emotion.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that's exactly how I felt. And the tide turns so quickly that only emotion can do that. Logic can't do that. Advertising, marketing can't do that. It's a tide of emotion. And,
yes.
And that's, I think, what we witnessed there. It's so interesting. Your family's originally from Italy.
My mother's side, yeah. So
your mother's side,
yeah.
Okay, so when she came here, or her family came here, and I know this from my own experience with friends from the neighborhood I grew up in. When their grandparents came here, the first thing they didn't have a phone in Italy. They would go up the hill to the local restaurant that had the phone, and somebody called for them, and they had to wait, and and it was a big thing. And they came to Canada, and Bell Canada said, "Here, have a phone." And they said, "Well, no, you have the phone." Those people will not leave Bell Canada. They're with Bell Canada today, I promise you. So, by the way, this is not paid for by Bell Canada. Trust me. But it's interesting that brand loyalty, that emotion, I got my very own phone, not a shared phone. When I went to Canada, Bell set me up.
It transcends, yes.
So I think that is part of the problem that we have when emotion goes up against traditional thinking. Normally I vote liberal. Normally I vote this. My family's voted this for years and years. That is another tide that is the undercurrent.
Agreed. And you know what? That's Canadian history. So if you look back at all the prime ministers you've had, the majority of them have been liberal. The default vote in Canada is liberal. We're a very socially driven community. This is what we are. This is what we do. We only vote conservative when we have a problem so that we can correct course. And if the problem's not big enough, we don't vote for that person. So what Canada is always looking for at scale, historically, is they're looking for a reason to vote liberal.
Perfect. Yes.
And that's what Carney gave them.
That's a perfect description. And he was the exact guy at the right time. Oh, look, he's conservative liberal. He's mature. And
he's a statesman.
A statesman, that's it.
He's an economic genius.
He says more than I do. It doesn't matter. Having said that, it would behoove me to not let you get out of this room before I ask you some questions about Blender. Because you're like my hockey hero sitting here in a lot of ways, because I do follow you guys, and I've admired it for a long time. First question, how do you get your stories? I mean, what are you guys doing over there?
So we built, what I did out of the gates was I built a list of resources. And it's just something that's evolved over time. And so if you read the newsletter, I actually do all the curation on that still every day myself.
Okay.
So Liam will do a couple headliners, and then I'll do everything else. And I just go through my sources every day, and I just kind of find what's hot, what's relevant. One of the things that I found, and I don't need to pump my tires here, is people have bought into my perspective. That's kind of what Blender had started. That's what it was.
Right.
And it's not just always my perspective, but it's my curation of what I think is important or interesting. So as you read through the newsletter, you have your 3 headline stories. Those are the biggest stories of the day. Like, what matters most? They're here. And then we kind of jostle those around. But
those aren't just like a recap of what we're hearing.
No.
They're usually a completely different angle on the stories that we're missing, that we're seeing in the news already.
So that's a couple things. So one is, I don't take one source and take it as gospel. You look for multiple sources from different angles, different sides. I think the other thing is just how we process, how we think. We have a certain way of looking at things, and what happens over time is there's this compound effect of the information you consume. When you consume the news every single day around the world, what happens is you start to understand how the whole mechanism works, not just one thing on its own, right? And I think that would be what you're saying, is that we understand how the whole machine works. So if I see something over here, it's not isolated. I understand how it affects everything else. Liam's sort of in the same boat. He will often take a historical or philosophical angle, where I will take more current event, but that's basically how we add more value or perspective to these stories.
That's a great description, because if the alarm is ringing over here, it's having these 4 effects.
Yes.
You guys will find one of these we're not thinking about and tie it to all 4 and bring it back. Often before the traditional media does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with media is I think there's a lot of brilliant people in the space, but they're told to go 2 or 3 steps deep, whereas we'll go 8 or 10, because that's how you actually get the story. That's how you figure out what's going on.
You
right?
guys seem to eliminate 3 through 9 often and start like, okay, here's where we are.
Yeah.
And by the way, here's where it ends up.
Yeah, well, I think we trust our audience to be the type of person that is pretty heavily invested in what's going on around the world and in Canada. So here's how I'd put it. If you want to get more people involved in independent news, you can't go super deep, because if you explain if you have, let's say, one of our family members that's a liberal, let's say they read the news, if they jump into what I'm doing and they sort of have to go down a rabbit hole. So they have to challenge a lot of their beliefs all at once.
You almost have to make it impossible for them to go no at the headline.
Well,
because you don't want to create that opposition of thought that's the covering of their political belief.
Well, most often they won't even engage. And if they do engage, if you go too deep, you're sort of asking too much of them.
Right.
So, with our network, we have an audience where we go pretty deep because they are the people that have invested more time into this and actually want that level of information. They want the depth. They want to understand what's going on. They actually want the truth. The truth is complex, it's layered, and it's often dark. Most people don't want reality. They don't. They want a headline. They want a little confirmation bias. They want to move on with their day and get their latte. That's what they want. That's what people want. So we don't really do that. So we are not the best news organization for people to migrate from being centrist or neutral or left wing. We're not. And the thing is we're not even right wing. We just go deep into reality. So
I was going to ask you that. Like you guys really are. I read it often, as I point out. I don't see you as politically affiliated. Is that true?
Yeah, we're not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not. Never taken a dime from anybody on either side of the aisle either. We don't care. It's not our thing. Our shtick is truth, honestly.
No, I think that your shtick is actually health foods.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gathering, actually. Yeah, like you guys like to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
If I was to get anything from you guys
that's true, actually. Yeah, it's funny. That's definitely up my alley.
So let me ask you this. I think that I don't see Blender going away over time, but I do see guys like yourself and Liam evolving into becoming more and maybe even some of us here at True Patriot Love becoming that mainstream face that people see. Do you still see that growth pattern?
So I do and I don't. I'll tell you what I see is there's 2 things to consider here. There's the individual brand loyalty, and then there's the company brand loyalty. It's becoming harder to build company brand loyalty. People want to buy into an individual more. Yeah. That's just kind of the world we live in. Influencers as individuals are more trustworthy. And I'm cool with that because they actually have a lot on the line. CBC tells you a lie. You don't give the journalists trouble. You just kind of move on to the next journalist. Right. And they just hide that person for a little while.
In this world,
you can't do that. So as individuals, I see myself and Liam probably growing beyond the national conversation within the next couple of years. Yeah. I still think we'll be a part of it here, but I don't think it'll just be the primary focus. I know both of us have bigger ambitions, and it's not a hack against Canada. It's just when you're in this space, there are levels. There's single A, double A, triple A in the majors. You want to get to the majors. Yeah. The majors is international. The majors is Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. Like, sure, I won't be those guys because they're who they are and I'm who I am, and that's fine. But it's getting into those conversations. The Konstantin Kissins. That's where you want to get.
Canadians are good at this, by the way, historically. We ship a lot of broadcasters and journalists and thinkers to other places in the world, the UK, the US, and English-speaking countries around the world love our commentary, the way that we speak, the way that we look at things, the calm nature. I can see your brand becoming popular in America or in Britain, covering stories here. Ezra, I noticed the other day, he's like in Britain covering stuff. And
nice.
And I thought to myself, well, that's great because these are the voices that we actually want to see out there representing us. And yeah, it was from his phone. And yes, he had his press jacket on and he was doing the very best he could out there. But what I really appreciated about it was he was doing it. And I will say this, I also notice among the non-traditional media groups out there, like yourself or ourselves, there is a certain kindness among us where we're not chomping at each other's bits. We would rather reference one another. Yes. And I think that adds credibility. The other thing that I think adds credibility to you guys is that and I'll ask you this afterward, but you tend to follow a story until the end,
Yes.
which is interesting. Most media drops a story 8 minutes in, and we never hear about it again. That's why nobody's held accountable. That's why nobody goes to jail.
Right. When it's time to hold somebody accountable, often those are the people paying their bills, so they have to back out anyway.
They disappear.
That's usually what it is. They'll once in a while stand up to the government to make it seem like they're nonpartisan, but they just do it to flap their wings and just to it's basically a smokescreen, right?
Yeah.
To go back to sort of your question before, with Blender, I see Blender continuing to be a strong independent organization in Canada, and we're going to add more journalists to it in probably the next 6-8 months. I'm actually shifting myself down to the US. To be quite honest with you, like I like being an entrepreneur a lot more than I like being a journalist. I kind of fell into journalism. I kind of fell into speaking.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I seem to have a knack for it, but it's not my, say, true passion. I like doing it as part of what I do.
Right.
So I'll continue to do a podcast and continue speaking out and doing things like that. But I really do like building business. I like scale. That's just the way my mind works. I enjoy that a lot more. And I just jumped into the media space because that was where I thought I could use those tools. And then
it was well suited to you, frankly.
Yeah. No, I appreciated it. And then I ended up becoming a little more of a journalist than I had anticipated, which I've enjoyed the journey. I have. But, to your question about longevity, I think the international conversation suits me a little better. For Blender, I would like to see us expand, like you said, into other markets, scale up with more journalists, and become at least a steady voice in the nation because we've built enough of a user base and enough trust. And I think that's hard to come by. So it's important that we continue to do that. But yeah, for myself, I'm a little more fluid. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have a feeling whatever happens next will be equally good. I hope you continue in the media space because we need leaders doing stuff that we can all get behind. You know what I mean? Especially in the media. And there's a lot of people out there that are looking for new ways to look at things. I really appreciate it. Last question.
Shoot.
What have you ever done a story and you were like, oh shit, we were so wrong about that?
So far, no. So far,
Wow.
we've only got 2 things wrong, and one of them was really funny. The one, and we corrected right away. Anytime
I
we're wrong,
can imagine. I get the vibe.
I apologize.
Yeah.
The only thing that we know we got wrong when the Epstein list thing came out, there was this story about Stephen Hawking and midgets and a chalkboard. It was everywhere, though.
That wasn't true?
It was everywhere.
But Jonathan, I have told all of my friends that was true.
It was so funny. They did such a good job of embedding that story.
Yeah.
It was just good for the jokes. And that's obviously not the stuff we usually cover anyway.
No,
it was just
that was
so
off the beaten
hilarious.
path, yeah.
But yeah, no. That was one we got wrong. Otherwise, yeah, no, like we've had one other thing we got wrong.
Well,
we've been lucky. We've been lucky. I think that it can happen more often than not, but we've been pretty lucky in that sense.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with your research and just checking your sources and stuff like that. I don't know who your sources are. You've kept them safe, and a lot of stuff has come out that started from Blender. Jonathan, I really appreciate it. Where can people actually get connected with Blender?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's good to chat with you. So you can find us at Blender News on most platforms, at blender.report on Instagram because we lost our first one due to Bill C-18.
Oh.
That's okay. Not a big deal. And then you can find us on Spotify, Blender Report. And then if you want to sign up for our daily newsletter, go to Blender News. That's BLENDR news.com. It goes out 5 days a week, and that's where you will find us.
Thank you for joining us for a conversation with the guy who starts my day every day and freaks me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I recommend that you sign up and join along with me because a lot of the stuff that I talk about comes from this very newsletter that I receive every day. It's been a buzz. I appreciate it. Subscribe, like, tell a friend, hate, whatever you need to do. Please interact with us. If there's something that we said that you don't like or love, we want to know about it. We'll address it. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.